Have you ever wondered why they walked away so easily? You gave them everything. You stayed when they pulled away. You loved them with a depth that scared most people away. And still, they left. Not with drama, not with a fight, just a quiet disappearance that left you standing in the middle of your own life, wondering what the hell just happened. Here's what nobody tells you. That silence you're sitting in right now, that empty space where they used to be, it's not the end of your story. It's the space where the truth is quietly being built. And if you're willing to stay with me until the very end of this video, I'm going to show you something that most people never get to see. I'm going to walk you through the exact psychological timeline your avoidant ex follows before they come crawling back. Not with hope, not with manipulation, but with real understanding of what happens in their mind during those quiet months when they think you don't matter anymore. But here's the catch. This isn't for people who want to play games. This isn't for people who want to manipulate their way back into someone's life. This is for people who are ready to understand the psychology behind the silence so they can finally stop destroying themselves with confusion every single night. Because right now, you're probably doing what everyone does. You're checking their social media at 2 a.m. You're replaying conversations in your head searching for the moment you went wrong. You're torturing yourself with the question, was I not enough? Did I love too hard? Was I too much? And the answer is no. The answer is so much deeper than that. And by the time this video ends, you're going to understand exactly what happened inside their head. And more importantly, what's happening right now in this exact moment as they sit alone with a void they created with their own two hands. So, if you've ever felt like you lost someone who didn't deserve to leave, stay. Because this is going to change everything you thought you knew about why they walked away. And that transformation starts right now. Right now, somewhere in the middle of your night, you're probably lying awake with your phone in your hand. Not because you're bored, not because you can't sleep, but because your mind won't stop screaming one question at you over and over again. What did I do wrong? You replay the last conversation you had with them like it's a movie you can't turn off. You analyze every word you said, every tone of voice, every moment you think you could have done something differently. And the cruelest part is, there is no pause button. There's no way to escape it. Your brain has trapped you inside a loop of questions with no answers. And every single day that passes without closure feels like another cut into the same wound. That's the part nobody talks about. Everyone tells you it gets easier with time, but they never tell you what to do with the time that feels like it's dragging you backwards instead of forward. They never tell you how to carry the weight of not knowing whether they're thinking about you, whether they ever loved you the way you loved them, whether any of it was real at all. And here most people start to break. They begin to convince themselves that they weren't enough, that they loved too much, that they gave their whole heart to someone who was never going to hold it the same way. That cycle of self-blame is the most dangerous game your mind can play with you right now. Because every time you blame yourself, you lose a piece of the person you were before they came into your life. You start shrinking. You start questioning every decision you make. You begin to believe that the reason they left is because you are fundamentally broken in some way. And that belief, it will cost you more than losing them ever could. But I need you to hear this clearly. The fact that you are sitting here trying to understand what happened, trying to find answers, trying to heal, that alone tells me everything I need to know about who you are. You are not someone who runs. You are not someone who hides from pain. You are someone who faces it head on, even when it feels like it's drowning you. That is not weakness. That is the rarest form of strength that most people will never understand. And the person who left you? They ran because they didn't know how to sit with what they were feeling. They didn't have the tools to face the depth of what you were offering them. So, they chose the easy exit instead of the hard work of staying. Their inability to stay had nothing to do with your worth and everything to do with their own limitations. So, as we move deeper into this video, I want you to hold on to that understanding. Not as a comfort, not as a distraction, but as the foundation of everything we're about to uncover together. Because once you truly understand why they left, you will stop destroying yourself for something that was never your fault to begin with. There's a specific kind of pain that comes from loving someone who chose to leave. And if you're in that space right now, you know exactly what I'm about to describe. It's the kind of pain that doesn't announce itself. It doesn't come in one big wave that you can ride out and recover from. Instead, it arrives in fragments, in small moments throughout your day that you think you've handled until suddenly you haven't. A song plays on the radio, and you're back in their car. A scent drifts past you at the store, and you're 6 months ago, standing next to them in a moment that felt like it would last forever. And the worst part is, you can't predict when it's going to hit you, which makes you start dreading the ordinary moments of your own life. Because your mind has learned that at any given second, without warning, the ground can open up beneath you and pull you right back into the grief you thought you were already moving past. That's the cycle nobody warns you about. You have good hours, good days even, and you start to think you're finally getting better. You start to believe that the worst is behind you and you can finally breathe again. And then something triggers you. A memory, a place, a song, a message from a mutual friend, and you're right back at the beginning, back to square one, back to questioning everything all over again. This is what psychologists call rumination, and it's one of the most destructive psychological patterns you can get trapped in after a breakup. Your brain gets stuck in a loop, replaying the same events, analyzing the same moments, searching for the same answers, and getting nothing but exhaustion in return. Rumination feels like you're solving a problem, but in reality, you're just keeping the wound open. And while your mind is trapped in that loop, your behavior starts to change in ways that feel impossible to control. You pick up your phone and put it back down 10 times in a row. You open their profile. You look at their last post. You read the comments. You check who liked it, and then you hate yourself for doing it. You ask mutual friends about them and immediately regret asking because now you have new information to torture yourself with. You write messages you never send. You rehearse conversations that will never happen. All of that happens because your nervous system is still attached to them. Not because you want to be, but because your body doesn't know how to let go of someone who was that significant to your daily life. The neural pathways that associated your happiness with their presence don't just disappear overnight. They require time, repetition, and conscious effort to rewire. So, if you've been judging yourself for not moving on faster, stop. Your emotional response is not a sign of weakness. It's a sign that what you had was real, and that means something. It means you are someone who feels deeply, who connects fully, who loves without holding anything back. That quality will save you in ways you can't even imagine yet. Because the same depth that makes this pain feel unbearable right now is the same depth that will allow you to build something extraordinary when the right person finally arrives. But right now, you need to understand what's actually happening inside their head as they sit in their own silence, because what you're feeling is not one-sided, and what they're experiencing is far more complicated than you think. I want you to take a breath right now, just one deep breath, because what I'm about to tell you might contradict everything you've been telling yourself for weeks. They did not leave because you were insufficient. They left because of something inside them that you could never have fixed, controlled, or changed. Let that sit for a moment. Because that single realization has the power to stop the bleeding that has been running non-stop inside your chest since the day they walked away. Listen to me carefully. Every time you have asked yourself what you could have done differently, you were asking the wrong question. You were searching for your fault in a situation where the fault was never yours to carry. You could have been perfect. You could have given them everything they asked for and more, and they still would have found a reason to leave, because leaving is not a decision that comes from the outside. It comes from deep within a person who doesn't know how to stay when things get real. That is their wound, not yours. This is where most people get stuck. They spend months, sometimes years, trying to understand what they did wrong in the relationship. They replay every fight, every misunderstanding, every moment they think they failed their partner, and they use that self-blame as proof that they deserve to be left behind. But that self-blame is a trap, a psychological prison that keeps you locked inside your own failure, even when there was no failure to begin with. Your ex didn't leave because you loved too hard. They left because your love became a mirror that showed them something about themselves they weren't ready to face. And instead of doing the hard work of growing, they chose the easy path of running. That's not your failure. That's their fear, and I need you to understand this with your whole body, not just your head, because intellectual understanding is easy, but emotional acceptance, that's the part that changes everything. When you truly accept that their departure was about their own limitations, something inside you stops fighting. The internal war that has been raging between your heart and your mind finally begins to quiet down. You stop demanding answers that don't exist. You stop punishing yourself for something that was never your fault. See, here's what most people never realize. Your ex did you a favor? Not the way you wanted, not in a way that felt kind or fair, but they did it anyway. They removed themselves from your life before you could waste another 5 years with someone who was never capable of giving you what you needed. And I know that doesn't feel like a favor right now. I know that sounds like something people say when they want you to feel better without actually helping you. But give it time, because what I'm about to show you in the next few minutes is going to make that favor start to make sense in a way you never expected. The moment you stop blaming yourself is the moment you gain something more valuable than reconciliation. You gain your power back. You gain the ability to see clearly instead of through the fog of guilt and shame. And from that clear vantage point, you can finally see the full picture of what happened. Not just from your side, but from theirs too. And that understanding is going to change everything. Now that you understand their departure was never a reflection of your worth, let's go deeper. Let's pull back the curtain on what was actually happening inside their head during every single moment you thought everything was fine. There is a psychological pattern called avoidant attachment. And if you can understand this one concept fully, you will never look at your ex the same way again. Avoidant attachment is not a choice. It's a survival strategy that was built into a person's nervous system years before you ever met them. It started in childhood, in moments when they reached for comfort and didn't receive it, when they expressed a need and were told it was too much, when they cried for attention and learned that being vulnerable only brought disappointment. Over time, their brain made a calculation that said, if I depend on anyone, I will get hurt. If I let anyone too close, they will eventually leave. So, the safest thing to do is to never need anyone at all. That calculation didn't disappear when they grew up. It followed them into every relationship, every friendship, every connection they made throughout their life. And when they met you, something incredible happened. You were different. Your love felt safe. Your presence felt like home. And for a while, their walls stayed down. They let you in. They allowed themselves to feel connected to another human being in a way they hadn't allowed in years. But here's what most people don't understand about avoidant people. The deeper you went, the more scared they became. Not because of you, but because of themselves. Because every time they let you in, their childhood wound whispered a warning in their ear. It said, this is too good. This is too real. This person can hurt you. And eventually, just like everyone else who came before them, they will leave. So, protect yourself. Pull back. Build the walls again before it's too late. That voice isn't rational. It doesn't listen to evidence. It doesn't care that you never gave them a reason to doubt. It was programmed long before you existed, and it runs on a frequency that has nothing to do with logic. So they pulled back. They created distance. They started pulling away, not because they stopped loving you, but because they were terrified of what loving you completely would cost them. The closer they got to surrendering fully, the louder that childhood voice screamed. And the only response they knew how to give was escape. This is why it felt like they changed overnight. This is why you could never get a straight answer from them about what was wrong. This is why they chose silence over communication, distance over confrontation, and leaving over working through it. They weren't capable of doing what you would have done. They didn't have the emotional tools to sit in the discomfort of real intimacy, and that is not your tragedy. That is theirs. Because here's what they never told you. In the moments when they were pulling away from you, they were also destroying something inside themselves that they will spend years trying to rebuild. They traded the best thing that ever happened to them for a few hours of temporary safety. And they will realize that one day, maybe not tomorrow, maybe not next month, but one day when the dust settles and the numbness wears off, they will sit with what they lost, and they will finally understand the depth of their own mistake. But right now you need to stay in your lane. You need to understand their psychology without getting trapped in it. Because the moment you start feeling sorry for them is the moment you lose the power that your own healing has given you.